Chris is on the full 7, and Dylan has mulled to 5 with the Esper Oculus. But, you know, like you were saying, there's a lot of dead cards, so mulliganing, maybe not the worst. You get to put a lot of fatal pushes on the bottom, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you got to be aggressive.
I think you do too.
Really
yeah.
want to have a good hand here and then hope Chris stumbles a little bit.
How's this stumble for turn 1? Build your own ancient tomb here.
Is it a stumble?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it looks pretty good to me.
Looks quite good, so. All right, Utopia Sprawl, naming green. Here is the Thoughtseize, and no lands.
Well, that's a stumble you're looking for. So
yeah,
typically Sprawl looking to go from 1 to 4 mana on turn 2 with a double land, but there is no land.
Yeah, that's when you just you auto top deck your Eldrazi Temple or something, and you're off to the races.
Eldrazi is very good at doing that.
Yeah. So what are your Thoughtseize here? I mean, if you could stop the land from getting Stirrings or Rumble, great, but the fact that you have both, that makes it a little bit worse.
Yeah, I think the Rumble here is an extra mana with the Scion as well.
Yeah.
It's probably got to be the Rumble, so yeah. Stirrings is good and we'll probably find a land, but at least we'll delay for another turn.
Yeah, I like it. So we'll see what Chris is going to draw, and wow, look at this die roll, how important this was. I don't think Chris maybe could have kept the hand. I think you still keep it, because if you get Thoughtseized, they take the Sprawl or the Stirrings, you just play the other one, but still, the die roll pretty important here.
Yeah, and we see the command here too. The Eldrazi command is the Cosmos command is so good.
Yeah,
it's the card that really has taken these Eldrazi decks from just being kind of one-trick stompy decks to having this insane amount of flexibility, and interaction, and removal. So a Psychic Frog here on turn 2 could be a good follow-up, but the command can just deal with that.
God, K command. Culligan's command is just so sad right now. Just so swept under the rug.
Yeah, it's there's a new K command in town, folks.
Exactly. No, it's incredible. And even being able to just cycle the card, like the fact that you can just pay 2, cycle it, draw a card. Of course, you do need the colorless mana, so not possible for Vega yet. But here is the Stirring. See if we can find land number 2. To be able to get everything going, and there's a forest. Definitely not the ideal land.
Yeah, that is almost at the bottom of lands we would want.
Yeah,
we need colorless sources here. The Scion will be able to do that to an extent. I'm sorry, the Scion. Never mind. I lied.
Yeah. Scion taken from the Rumble, but the draw for the turn was Utopia Sprawl. So we have the ability to have 4 mana next turn, but there's no third color here. You need colorless to cast some of your spells.
Yeah, I can't name colorless on Sprawl, but the Sorry Michael Spawn's going to help out a lot here.
Yeah, exactly. And you can still play Karn, but a little farther away on other things.
That's a big part of this, too, is that, counter spells up for Dylan. You can counter the Michael Spawn, but that land slow goes off, which is the reason why these Eldrazi cards are just so good against these counter spells.
Yeah, and maybe that's why you don't even need Cavern, because the half of these cards you need to resolve can't be countered except by consigns and stuff. So, yeah, I'm all about it. Here is the colorless. Get the Eldrazi Temple. Get that online.
Nice one-lander, right?
Yeah.
Just 6 mana on turn 3.
Easy. Here goes a Flooded Strand. Sacrifice, presumably getting a Surveil land. I mean, the one thing you really want to be doing if you are the Oculus deck is if you can ever Surveil an Oculus to the yard, be able to bring it back. I guess. I don't know. Yeah, we do still have the Unearths. We still have that beautiful combo here. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, free Entomb. Entomb's a pretty powerful Magic card.
Pretty good, yeah. Reanimator and Legacy. It has survived the test of time, believe it or not. Pretty good in Modern as well. Also, if you can ever Unearth Oculus and get a Ketramos underneath it, flip that up, come on, we're cooking.
That is nice, yes. A lot of big high roll hits in a deck that usually you wouldn't expect it in. A very kind of a fair-looking deck, but having that potential, again, like we were saying earlier, is very important in Modern. Your deck, even your fair deck needs to be able to do some pretty unfair stuff to compete.
Yeah, absolutely. And were you a part of the Jeskai Oculus decks at this last Pro Tour with your team? Did you end up playing that for Standard, or?
Yep, yeah, there were 6 of us playing the deck.
Okay.
We didn't do super great.
Yeah, it didn't do amazing, but still, you know your way around the giant floating eye, huh?
Yeah, the card's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Get that thing in play, and if it's in play for a turn or 2, things just really snowball out. And then, like you're saying, if you hit another copy of it.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that, Whammy. I got 2 eyes now. Yeah.
Yes. All right, so we get a Relic surveilled to the yard with a Sewer. Crack on in for 3, and let's see what the follow-up is here. I know we had the command. We had the Karn, so this could be one of the turns where, you just jam a Karn and hope for the best.
Oh,
never mind. I was going to say this felt like a turn where you'd pass the turn, command on their end step, and then play something meaningful to really tax the counter spells and the disruption of your opponent. But when you have another spawn here to be able to destroy a land, get yourself another one, this is just a masterpiece.
Yeah, the spawn draw is so good.
It's so good.
And this LD element really exacerbates what this deck is already doing well, right?
Yeah.
We already saw a huge mana advantage from the Eldrazi deck here in the first few turns, but then not only are you plussing your mana, you're minusing their mana.
Yeah.
Most of these fair decks just can't compete on 2 lands versus, even just on 3/3s and 11 mana in play, or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, and Chris doesn't really have any of the really sweet lands. here is Ghost Quarter. That's kind of the one bit of, some utility lands, but doesn't have the Sanctum. Sanctum of Ugin ends up being awesome. You can kind of channel that into getting your Emrakul, but does have Bojuka Bog. So that is the main one. Being able to have more game against Breach and having a little bit of less action against other decks is a real choice that Chris made, but so far serving him quite well, being 5-0.
For sure, yeah. These are choices you got to make, like we were saying earlier, the metagame thing, where metagames shift, and maybe it's right to play Bojuka Bog this weekend and not right next weekend. Maybe next week it's a Cavern of Souls weekend, but here we are bogging and doing pretty well.
Absolutely. Passes the turn. So far, Dylan just hasn't gotten anything going, and now this is a 2-turn clock here with the Sowing Myco spawn. Dylan's got to find something, but whenever you find something, we know Chris still has the command, still has the Karn, and you got to think this is going to be a very tough one here for Dylan to come back from.
Yeah, this is the power of the Eldrazi Temple and the mana acceleration, where Sowing Myco spawn is a hill giant. It's a 4-mana 3/3, and you think that's not going to affect the board that much, but we were casting it on turn 2 or turn 3, and you're creating this cascading advantage. A 3/3 adds up. That is not small, and 2 of these in play attacks for 6. That ends the game in just a few turns or whatever. So,
absolutely.
And then the thing is that your opponent is kind of floundering dealing with this, and if they do deal with it, then the big boys come out.
Yeah, and if you deal with it, well, it's still a 3-for-1. You dealt with an opponent's land, you got a land, and you had to deal with the creature itself. So, yeah, a phenomenal card here.
And if you want to count Temple as 2 lands, because it kind of is, it's a 4-for-1. So.
All right. We're getting in the weeds. I like it. And here is the command. We'll see how much you want to go for. X equals about $1 million right now.
Yeah, imagine we're drawing in, drawing Scions, Graveyard is kind of spicy. Mostly just drawing the exciting part here. Spawn tokens are fine too.
Yep. Basically, if you go draw, here you kind of have the ability to. You don't care about your opponent's graveyard. If there was an Oculus, sure, you have the ability to exile that. But whenever my opponent is going draw and make Scions, you're behind.
Right, yeah.
It's the 2 push-ahead modes. It is basically find an Emrakul and cast an Emrakul, all wrapped up into one card.
Yeah, the hope is that, maybe you have nothing to do or no mana to do it, and this is both.
Absolutely. Looks like this is for 7. Is that good?
Yeah, and the thing is here is, that was cast end step in the spot where, you can go ahead and counter this if you want to.
Yeah.
Because I have 2 3/3s attacking also, and more threats to do too. You can't beat everything here.
Yeah, we still know the Karn is there, and even Karn on liquid metal coating. That's just the first thing that comes to my mind, and that looks good enough. You can Karn and Stonebrain as well, get rid of all the eyes. All kinds of great options available here. But how about this? A lethal attack coming in. Ouch. Ouch.
Oh, wow. If there's a play that exemplifies last-second desperation, it is Odowaring your opponent's Myco spawn when they have 1,000 mana in play.
Yeah, go to 1. But, hey, I like what Dylan's doing. I like the Reed Duke train of thought here. Play the game until you're done.
My thought goes to Captain America with the broken shield, staring down Thanos' entire army, just okay, I can do this all day, but a Sign of 7 Deaths says maybe you can't.
Yeah, here's 7. What's in the box? Coming in for a Karn as well, I imagine here. No, why not? Get some lands out of there. Go search up a land, maybe Bojuka Bog. Do whatever you want, really.
Yeah, no Damnations in this list. Pest control. These are pests in the metaphorical sense.
Yeah.
Not in the size sense.
Yes. Pests are controlled on Dylan's side of the board for sure. We're going to see 1 draw step. We're going to pack it up here. And Chris Vega, 1-0 here and 5-0. with this really awesome Eldrazi ramp deck. You know, this has got to be one of the few decks where we see Sire of Seven Deaths, but, I mean, it looks sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I played Eldrazi at the Nadu Pro Tour.
Okay.
I was through the Breach version, but big fan of his deck. The cards are just so powerful, and the draws are just so powerful. You know?
Yeah.
The ability to have 4 mana on turn 2 with a pretty amount a good amount of regularity is excellent.
Yeah.
The command is so versatile. The threats are so good. It's just a lot of really powerful cards.
And I mean, you know, Nadu, a 3/4. Sire of Seven Deaths, a 7/7. I bet you crushed that card.
Yeah, tiny. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's get back to the sideboarding here. And,
yeah. What are we doing from Dylan's side?
Consign to Memory. Consign to Memory is, you know, by far and away the card that matters the most. You know, the ability to counter any Eldrazi or colorless card for 1 mana, but also get the trigger too. That's the important part. We saw in that game where you can counter an Eldrazi, but they still get the land or whatever else it might be. So Consign is huge. I think Thoughtseize is also huge in that respect.
Yeah.
Where if you're able to take one of the big things, you're kind of work around the cast trigger. You know, there isn't a lot of like raw card draw or card advantage in the Eldrazi deck. You know, there's search, there's stirrings and rumbles and ways to kind of find things, but like as far as raw cards go, that's an axis you can attack them on.
Okay, I love it. And then from Chris's side, what are we changing now? Of course, this is a Karn matchup, or it is a Karn deck, so you know you don't want to sideboard too much. What do you like?
I think the Karn's coming out here. You know, I think that the way this deck is built, I think the Karn is mostly for the Breach matchup with only 3 copies and then a small wish board. I think the deck was kind of agrees. So get those out of here. Get these Writhing Chrysalis in, and just keep doing your thing. Don't got to change much. The main plan of this deck works very, very well. You need to be a little bit careful around the consigns. You know, you're not just free to kind of go nuts and cast things or whatever. You need to be a little more careful with your spells. But overall, as long as Chris's plan is working, it's going to work out very well for him.
Yeah. Are you talking Writhing Chris or Chris Vega?
Both of them.
Both. Okay, as long as they're both
Chris's
working. Absolutely. So if you want to pick up some of these really sweet Eldrazi's or maybe some of these awesome Oculuses, whatever you want, we got a flash sale going on right now. You can pick up any kind of singles as long as your purchase is over $50 of individual Magic cards. You'll get some free shipping anywhere in the U.S. So you got to love that. Got to take advantage of that. Go to StarCityGames.com if you want to take advantage of this deal. Now, this sale does end Monday, so make sure to get your orders in over the weekend if you want to get some of these really awesome cards. So far, Jim, what kind of cards do you want to be picking up from singles from what you've watched so far?
It's funny, you know, I made the missing out joke in relevance to the flash sale, but I actually bought a Fear of Missing Out from a Star City booth on Friday. For my cube. Yeah, it's a really awesome cube card. You know, the flexibility of being a discard out for Reanimator and stuff like that. So a really fun card as well. So I already bought some cards this weekend, and you of course can too, whether it's for your cube, constructed, or whatever else it might be.
You should have got those sent to your house. Even though you need them here and you have your cube here, you still should have got them sent to your house and took advantage of that free shipping.
Yeah, mail it to my hotel.
You know, or if anything, if we can pick them up, you know, in person. I can pick them up for you. I can take your cards.
Those are my cards.
But, you know, I mean, just hold on to them for you. And then you can come over and we can cube.
You know what? That last part sold me.
All right, there we go. All right, so these players getting ready to go here. And 5-0, I mean, you don't want to be thinking about it, but it's kind of impossible to keep these thoughts out of your head. This is a winning in for day 2.
Absolutely, yeah. 6 minutes is the cutoff. You know, so many rounds to go, but like there is a certain amount of satisfaction of knowing that you cannot bomb out of day 2. You are in, you are locked up. The converse to that, though, is you can be a little comfortable too, where you feel like, oh, I made day 2. And it's a very dangerous thing in Magic where you see it often when players make their first competitive achievement, whether it's a day 2 or a top 8 or a pro tour, where they feel like they've accomplished the thing they're supposed to do, and they kind of relax a little bit.
Yes.
You can't do that either.
Yeah, 100%, especially the kind of happy to be there. Like, you make it to day 2 of maybe your first big event, and some people are like, I don't even care how I do the next day. Like, I made it to day 2. That was my goal. Right. You know, you've been a player who has dominated these SCG tours. You know, you've done great at these pro tours, that kind of thing. How do you manage that kind of stuff? Because, you know, we joke about it, you know, and we talk like, hey, you don't want to unravel, but it is not an easy thing to do. Do you have any tips for anybody that may be making it to their first big event?
It's honestly all experience.
Yeah.
You know, when I made my first top 8 at PTQ, I was very nervous. I lost.
Yeah.
The next time, I was a little more comfortable. You know, and as you kind of go through it, it kind of sucks to say, well, you just got to go through it. But that's it. You know, it's experience. Experience is the best teacher by far. You know, and once you have a spot, you kind of like, okay, all right, cool. And then you're there for the next time. Oh, I've been here before. I can do this. You know, so just making sure you're tempering yourself. And I think also it's important not to have expectations. You know, Magic's a tough game where things can swing wildly at any point. You could have a 90-10 matchup and still
lose.
Still 10%, you know. So just understanding that you know, there's more opportunities to have and there's more things to more places to be. It's not your last chance. It's not your last day 2. It's not your last top 8. You'll be there again.
Yeah, absolutely. My first big top 8 was a state championship in North Dakota, and I was so nervous making it to the finals. I mean, I was shaking nervous, okay? I was 14, and I'm playing in the finals, and I asked my opponent, I was like, can we, you know, just like have the spectators go someplace else? And he's just like, all right, man, you're going to have to get used to the spectators at some point. No, absolutely not. And, you know, happy that they said that lesson. All right, so here we go. Starting the game off, Dylan goes with the Thoughtseize on turn number 1. 6-card hand from Chris. Got a couple talismans, Utopia Sprawl, and the powerful Eldrazi, the Sowing Mycospawn. What do you like?
It's got to be Mycospawn here. I mean, this is a classic problem where, you know, the Eldrazi deck is, in essence, a ramp deck. You know, and ramp decks have the problem of they're an A+B thing, where you need lands, obviously, but you want to have your ramp and then your payoff. And if you only have one and not the other, things start to get pretty ugly, you know? So we see a hand here, you know, the mulligan to 6 is rough against the Thoughtseize as well, but a couple lands, couple talismans, but nothing to really do just yet. So pressure on Chris to find something to do. And then Dylan, of course, you know, after sideboard has these consigned memories and other answers too. So as far as the 1-for-1 game goes, this start certainly favors Dylan.
Yep, absolutely. Take the thing that is really unique to the hand and hope your opponent doesn't draw the things they need on curve.
Correct.
That's usually the thing you want to be doing. Now, that being said, Chris will have quite the turn. You know, being able to just next turn go Talisman into Talisman, you're ready to go whenever you start drawing some of these gigantic threats. But, yeah, I totally agree with you. I'd still be taking that for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of big stuff in the deck, too. Like, you know, and this is why it's important for on Dylan's side where there's some good interaction here, but Dylan has to establish a clock. And Game 1 was not able to do that. But there has to be a fast Oculus or a frog of some kind. So Dylan can punish the stumble here. You know, Thoughtseize is the card that's meant to make your opponent stumble. You know, you're never going to get all of their cards, but they stumble, take a piece apart, and you can kind of keep going and do your thing.
All right, so an exercise on the Utopia Sprawl. Get that exiled. Very relevant. Actually kind of relevant with Emrakul. But, yeah, once again, no frog, no pressure, nothing too exciting. That will slow down Chris's turn a bit. Here is a talisman and a pass back to Dylan.
All's fair in love and Stone Rains.
I believe that is how it goes.
And Chris Stone Rain Dylan. Dylan gets Stone Rain right back with an exercise.
Yep, makes sense. Makes sense. No land from Dylan.
Okay, yeah, so this game is getting a little ugly, right? Note that from Dylan. We see an unimprinted Ugin Labyrinth on Chris's side.
Yeah.
We're getting into sloppy territory. Which I think is good for Chris, honestly. You know, unless there's a lot of consigns on Dylan's side, Chris, as long as he has time to draw these big threats, the big threats are really, really good and very, very impactful.
Hear me out, Jim. I think Dylan is trying to discard the hand size. Get that eye into the graveyard the old-fashioned way.
I got some work to do.
Yeah, hey. One card at a time.
I'm sorry. Are we playing Modern Horizons 3 draft right now?
Well, if we are, Chris just won the game. Writhing Chrysalis coming down, the mythic common from Modern Horizons 3. Yeah, you know, I mean, that was such a weird Pro Tour. It's kind of Pro Tour Nadu, but I think it was Pro Tour Chris.
Yeah. According to the data on 17 lands, Writhing Chrysalis has the highest win rate of a common in the last 5 years by like 5%.
Wow.
It is so far and away above every other common. It is unbelievable. And here we see it on the modern stage being played in one of the most powerful formats in Magic.
I mean, it's incredible. Being able to get a body that's 4 mana, 4/5 reach, great, and ramps you. I mean, and that ability is basically uncounterable. I mean, it does so much. And you think, like, oh, the body doesn't matter that much, but, like, you know, I've seen a lot of Tamios attack into this. You know, I've seen a lot of people forget about the secret reach of this card.
Yeah, it's hidden down there under the void and under the cast trigger is how the templating works. So
exactly,
it's very sneaky reach.
It really is. So there is drawing a couple cards, discarding, got that Ketramos into the yard. And, I mean, Ketramos can brick pretty much any mid-range style of attacker pretty easily.
For sure, yeah. The card draw is important. The life gain important once the graveyard gets exiled. One cool thing about Crystals in this deck, though, is the Splinter Twin kind of kill. Yeah. Where you can use your K command, make a bunch of Scions, sacrifice them all, go draw some more cards, find another command, and kind of just kill out of nowhere, which is really cool, too.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that too often. That would be spicy.
Round 2 of the Pro Tour. Christian Calcano killed me with that in limited.
Really?
Cast Chrysalis on turn 3, killed me on turn like 4 or 5.
Had you considered playing around it?
No.
Okay.
I did not.
Gotcha. You know, I haven't played a non-breach deck in Modern in a while, you know, besides getting the reps down with a couple different decks. Chrysalis comes out in that matchup quite often.
That's fair.
All right, bringing back a god, Unearth on Ketramos. It's got to be feeling great here from Dylan. And, you know, if Dylan does have the Consign open plus Replicate, which it kind of seems like it. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's fully face-up, but it seems pretty face-up.
For sure, know? Yeah. Dylan's definitely saying that, okay, here's my threat, and I have to back up, and this is what he wants to be doing for sure.
Yeah. And I think the thing that kind of made it face up is when Dylan missed a land drop, had the Tainted Indulgence, could have went for it right away if you didn't have anything. If you're not going to play that, you probably have something that you're interacting with, and Consign would stand at the forefront of my brain.
This is why Sawyer Myco Spawn is so good.
Yeah.
Myco Spawn is not the main course. Myco Spawn is the card that sets the table for you and gets you going to all your big spells.
Yeah.
But it's also, in this point, how can you not counter this? You know, like, can you afford to let the land go? But it's, all right, well, I guess here we go.
Yeah.
So the advantage gained by this Myco Spawn is huge.
Yeah, it is a rough one to counter, you know? Like, it's the appetizer, as you were saying. But, you know, it is not an Emrakul. So if you have one Consign, it is kind of brutal, you know, to just fire a counterspell here and get Emrakuled in a couple of turns.
Yeah, we also are a ways from Ketramos being a creature, barring an Oculus next turn, which would be huge.
Oh, yeah.
And because of that, there's 7 power in play.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, Oculus with Ketramos. Man, if it was each individual card, that would be a little broken.
Yeah, be Gristlebrand style.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so Cycles on Earth at end step. Now only the one card exiled from Ketramos.
This is the turn, I feel like.
Yeah.
You know, if it's an Oculus this turn, the game swings pretty heavily in Dylan's favor. Without that kind of push where getting Ketramos to being a creature, drawing some cards like Ketramos, the board is lethal right now.
Can you even do it, though? Like, can you tap 3 of your 4 lands to play an Oculus and only be able to consign and not replicate it? Like, that's a cost.
I mean, Chris is down low on cards, you know, and realistically, you're at 7 life. What else are you going to do, you know?
Yeah. So. And well, you're right. Dylan agrees. So I don't think we have any known information because when we saw the hand, it was the 2 talismans. So I think that is a 1 mystery card. And even if, you know, it is something big, you have the 1 consign, not so bad.
Right.
You know, if Emrakul comes down, you got to decide, is it okay to let Chris control the turn, or if a 13-13 is okay.
How about a Thoughtseize?
Okay. All right. So can you Thoughtseize the top of the deck, though?
I have heard that you cannot.
Okay. Well, let's see if it's a good one.
Important to note, though, that Chris doesn't have a ton of mana here. We have an Eldrazi Temple, a couple Talismans, a couple lands, but we're not in, like, big mana territory.
Yeah, probably no Emrakul here, huh? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, not even close. 5 short. So what's even our best draw?
So you got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 mana. 7 is the magic number, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, a Devourer or Sire 7 to some sort of 7 mana play. Probably not Talisman of Impulse.
Woo! Yeah, Talisman. Not looking great. And now Dylan gets to untap. Shoulders down, you know, exhale a little bit here. Now Dylan gets to kind of pop off here with quite the combination of Ketramos and the Eye together. Really nice.
Yeah, advantage bar with that turn cycle being completed, now heavily favoring Dylan.
Yep, absolutely. 4, 5, not big enough to step in front of the Eye. And yeah, if Ketramos, you step in front and double block that, who cares? Indestructible.
Now, 12 life, you know, 12 life and 8 mana. 12 life on the other side, 8 mana in play for Chris. Not even sure what the draw is here.
Yeah, yeah.
That's also assuming that Dylan has no other interaction as well.
Yeah. Man, Ketramos is tough to deal with. So tough. I guess a command is just like always your best draw.
Typically.
Exile, Ketramos, you know, draw some cards. Sure, that looks fine, but...
Also, because Scions can come into play, grow the Chrysalis, which can help block the Oculus.
Yep.
So
I feel like we're at the spot in the game where there is a consign. You know, like there's got to be.
It's also, if either one of these manifests is a relevant creature, that would wildly swing things as well. So a lot of things need to go right. Yeah, that's not going to do it. Yeah, Menace on the Ketramos alongside Lifelink. Pretty threatening.
Able to get it done. Okay, so just like we were saying, maybe a really nice matchup here for Chris. You got to play the games, that's for sure.
Yep, you know, on the mulligan, getting Thoughtseize, and then just not finding the threats.
Yeah. So what are we going to have to do from the Oculus side when we're on the draw against Eldrazi, against a player that presumably, isn't going to mulligan?
Threats. Thoughtseize, cheap interaction, play a threat, and then untap and protect it. The cheap interaction is really, really important. Don't let this game go long.
Yes.
Don't let it get to a point where there's enough mana in play and a few cards in hand that these big haymakers come in.
Yeah.
So get a threat. Obviously, Unearth is great. If you can get the Unearth going, get the early Oculus. Oculus is a fantastically fast clock. And the buys it makes it relevant, too.
Yeah.
Because Eldrazi often leaves behind these creatures in play where you have like a 3/3 and then a random Chrysalis or whatever. And those 2/2s add up for trump blocks or other attackers as well.
Definitely.
So that's a big game.
And if they're ever, a sneaky 3-drop underneath for those 2/2s, you can really be doing something. As well as, Dylan has the draw that we haven't really seen at all, and it's the frogs. We haven't seen them yet. You can't take those out, though, right? I feel like that's a sacred goat in this deck that you almost never want to take out.
Both never want to take out, and then it just seems awesome here. It's a card that it's early pressure, it attacks well, it must be answered. It sizes up, too. It's expensive to discard cards out of your hand to pump the frog up to deal with Eldrazi's, but it can do that. It can rumble if it needs to.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so if you want to be, let know or in the know of any kind of future events, any pre-orders, all that kind of stuff, Jim, where are we going?
The newsletter, Star City Games.
Oh,
all right. There's a lot of stuff happening in Magic these days, from new releases, events, and then, of course, sales on the website. So you can see here, Talk Your Dragonstorm pre-orders. We got Denver coming up. We got flash sales, and you don't have to do anything. Just put in your email, hit sign up, and then you get an email, once, twice a week, letting you know all the important things that are going on so you don't miss anything.
You'd be a fool to not be subscribed to this newsletter.
I'm subscribed.
Yep, me too. Absolutely. So go ahead and follow that URL, get subscribed, and get notified of these events. So, all right, these players are getting ready to go. A win-and-in game for day 2 here.
Yeah, this is going to be tough for Dylan. I think that game worked out pretty well. Obviously, a mulligan to a Thoughtseize. There's nothing more classic in Magic than that.
Always frustrating.
But able to expose a little bit of the weaknesses of the ramp deck. We saw a lot of mana. We didn't see a lot of payoffs. And then able to get that all-important threat in play and get things going.
Yep, absolutely. So here we go, ready to start up this game 3. Now, I see that dice usually indicates mulligan counts here. I don't know if both players are down to 5. That would be wild.
Yeah, that would be a scrappy game.
We're going to find out. That, of course, can just be hanging around. But we'll see how many cards these players put back, if any.
I think we're on 7-7 here.
Looks like it.
Yeah.
Looks like it. Okay, well, all right, we were at 7-7.
All right. Dylan and Chris, why you got to make a fool of me?
Exactly.
Yeah. Try and keep things orderly and try and, let everyone know what's going on. And they're both like, wait, what was that Jim said?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sixes.
They both had perfect hands, and they're like, you know what?
Yeah.
We want to mess up Jim Davis here in the booth for sure.
Yep.
All right, players mulliganing here. With both players mulliganing, who does this favor?
I think it favors Chris a little more.
Yeah.
I think it's important for Dylan to have a really good mix of disruption and then an early threat. And with less cards, it's harder to do that. Dylan does have a Thoughtseize, So Thoughtseize, 1-for-1 interaction does seem kind of nice on a mulligan. But if Chris is able to produce one of those powerful hands, and on the play too. I mean, the hands this Eldrazi deck can produce on the play. 4 mana on turn 2 in the play. You're playing, an Eldrazi setup or whatever. You probably got 1 land in play.
Yeah.
So that's a big game, and things get out of control wildly, like we saw in Game 1, where there was 7 mana versus 2 mana advantage, and it's very hard to overcome that.
Yeah, that's definitely the ideal thing, that not many decks in Modern can produce that kind of mana advantage so early. So we'll see if the players like their hand here.
A lot of paths, too. The sprawl, adding the sprawls with the signets or whatever, and then, or the talismans, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the multiple soul lands. We have the Eldrazi land, and we have the Ugin land. So there are many different paths. There are many combinations of Legos you can put together to get yourself 4 mana on turn 2.
Yeah.
And that's your best draw, but you could still have, 4 or 5 mana on turn 3. That's pretty good, too.
Oh, yeah. Or just the easy mode of just rumble on 2. 4 mana for turn 3. That is like the easiest thing that these Eldrazi decks can be doing. And, Rumble, one of the unsung heroes of Modern.
Yeah.
That card is unbelievable.
Yeah, the Green Ponder, really, really powerful. It's so cool seeing it in different elements, too. In Breach, it's there as kind of like a ponder effect. It also fills your graveyard. In the Eldrazi deck, it's a little more like an Ancient Stirrings, where the graveyard doesn't matter that much. But the Scion matters a lot more. Where it has synergy with, so on and so forth. It's also ramping. I feel like in Breach, getting the mana back is more important. Whereas it's kind of like a 1 mana a ponder. In the Eldrazi deck, you're actually using the ramp.
Yeah.
So like you're saying, even on a bad draw, if I have Forest, Rumble, I still have 4 mana on turn 3.
100%. And colorless, which is important for these Eldrazi decks. But, God, Dylan, down to 5 again here.
Yeah, this is tough.
Yikes. I guess that dice was foreshadowing.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. I think Dylan cursed himself there.
Get the thing off the table,
No kidding. Throw that dice across the room.
It's gonna hit us over here.
Yeah. I'll take it if we can get 2 players keeping some opening hands.
Yeah, so Dylan, under a lot of pressure here, really got to find the threat and then really untap and start pushing it to victory.
Yep, absolutely. And the bread and butter start, Utopia Sprawl for Chris. Heading over to Dylan. Seeing what's up.
You got red on the Sprawl as usual.
Yep. Wish you could go for colorless half the time for sure.
I know, right? That'll be MH4.
Oh, okay. Double Utopia Sprawl. Either add 1 color or 2 colorless. Double ramp. All right, so there is Talisman into Rumble on turn 2. And, just going wild. And Dylan with that tapped Watery Grave signifying, I just don't have anything. And we got a Rumble with an Emrakul or Writhing Chrysalis.
Yeah, and again, this is like we were saying with the upper range of draws. This is like a middle range of a draw, right? Elaborate with no imprint, a Talisman, a Rumble. Nothing too threatening yet. But what a setup turn.
Yeah.
There's a ton of mana available. Card parity as well. Looks great.
Yep, absolutely. Haven't seen any Devourers as well. I'd be curious if Chris actually just sided them out. They're good they can kill Oculus, but that's really the only thing they can kill. But also just having that in your opener, having that card manipulation is probably too important.
Yeah.
Just haven't drawn them.
I think it's a big part of how the deck functions for sure.
Yeah. All right, there is what looks to be a Ghost Quarter. Not the best land right now. You wish it was an Eldrazi Temple for sure.
Yeah, but 6 mana.
Yeah.
6 against 2,
Yep. If Chris had a Myco Spawn, you'd be slamming that. But there is Consign, best card, being able to hit the come into play or the cast trigger as well as the Chrysalis itself. And here's Rumble number 2.
That's what I was saying, where these mid-range Eldrazi, the Chrysalis and the Myco Spawn, you really can't afford to not counter them.
Yeah.
They're just really, really powerful. But then now we see another Rumble. We see more setting up. And now the coast is getting more and more clear for the big guns to come out.
Yeah, this is going to be a 6-7 after you sacked all these spawns that you're creating here. You can't really beat that from Dylan's side. Sure, if you left in Fatal Push against the Eldrazi deck, but Dylan doesn't want to do that or more than likely isn't doing that.
Yep. And then new Chrysalis in the hand, ready to do it again next turn.
Yep. All right, there's a Frog with 1 mana left over. So not so bad, and kind of doing a little bit of a basic check here. We might be in rough territory. Jim, there's 1 island, 1 swamp. That Ghost Quarter is a strip mine.
Oh, wow. So we got a little Dismember on the Frog and a strip mine coming up.
Oh, God. And you can Ghost Quarter, main phase 1, and then go to post board so you can't even get consigned if you want to.
Yeah, those basics are both naturally drawn, too, right?
Yeah.
That's painful.
That's always the worst.
Yep.
It's like, why me? So doesn't go for that play. Chris recognizing or really valuing his own mana, with no land drop from Chris. That makes sense. But it's got to be pretty tempting.
That is true. The cards in Dylan's deck are relatively cheap. And, when you strip mine someone, you are also strip mining yourself. It's a 1-for-1 land exchange. And Chris, of course, is the big mana deck.
Okay, so Frog number 2. And a beautiful foil Frog, too. That's nice.
Old borders are pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I prefer white bordered Psychic Frogs.
Corey.
Yeah?
Is that an audience check? So you've been watching for a long time?
I think so, yes,
yes.
Okay. This is what we call getting engagement,
There we go.
Yes. And I'm trying to get you riled up, Is it working?
You can't rile me up.
Okay.
As I love seeing Twitch chat riled up also,
Okay. Who doesn't? So, Myco Spawn here.
Got some graveyard counting over here. Some graveyard chucking. Maybe a little Emrakul check.
Yeah, I was going to be like, what would you be thinking if you are Dylan on the other side? It's got to be one thing, right?
It's a powerful move, too. Even if you don't have Emrakul, look at the graveyard, count your types, and bring the fear of Big Mama Emrakul coming out of the moon.
just leave a dice over there, too, just to really get in your opponent's head.
Yep. Yeah, we have a Crystallis in hand for Chris. This strip mine, too, this Ghost Quarter, open deck lists,
Yeah.
It's kind of thing also, but, like, it's not an easy thing to remember in the heat of battle, though.
Yeah.
We have our lists here in front of us. We can just look right at them. But when you're in the game, you can't look at the deck lists.
Definitely. You get to look, in between games, but that's it. You got to put it away after that.
Right. And usually you're looking at what sideboard cards they have.
Yeah.
What's going to be coming out here, And when Ghost Quarter, if it was a 4 of, sure, you think about that, but only a 1 of here.
Yeah, if you're like, the Jake Beardsley, Demir Mill deck where you got 4 Field of Ruins, you look for those immediately.
Right.
All right, so did not Emrakul. Maybe we'll do a count as well. What do we got? Sorcery, creature, artifact, instant, land. Emrakul's an Eldrazi as well, I imagine, right? So that would count for 6 types. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I count 13, so it was there. If, Chris had it.
Ooh, I love this.
Yes, call.
Yeah, I love challenging Psychic Frog to a fight. Like, how many cards are you willing to discard?
Exactly. And also, my favorite thing to do, just in general in Magic, is make a block, and then you already have a removal spell, force your opponent to commit more resources, and then get the creature. I mean, those are just some of the best blowout scenarios, in Magic.
It's a fun game of chicken, too, because Chris has the Scions.
Yeah.
Chris can also play the Make My Crystallis bigger game. So it's a real, I grow my thing, you grow your thing.
Yeah. So looks like we might have this still looks like this is still within combat. Maybe they already bounced off each other. There's an eye to the yard. Now we'll see if we're still in combat. This could easily be a Ghost Quarter activation on that Watery Grave within combat.
That would be very heads up.
Yeah.
And then risky, too. The reason you would cast a card like that in combat is you want to be able to make your decision on Psychic Frog with more information, right?
Yeah.
So you want to know, I want to have the most information possible to decide if I want to go all in on this Frog or not, and so on and so forth. But exposing yourself to the possibility of this Ghost Quarter kind of, it seems like it's not really in the forefront of either player's mind right now.
Yeah.
But is a very relevant interaction.
Definitely. All right, so we are still within combat, it looks like. So discard some more cards. Here is forcing Chris to do something. Both Writhing Chris and Chris Vega.
Like you're saying, too, we could see a command here. Make your opponent make the effects and then go for the kill. We got a lot of options here. We got sacrifices.
Yeah. But Dylan, of course, can have the consign for the command. There's going to be levels here, and both players, clearly with the block and with the attack, both think they're right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, the game of chicken continues. Now Christmas is a little bigger.
Yeah.
Frog, what do you say?
Looks at your opponent.
Yep.
What do you say, Frog? Right now, they would just bounce off each other.
And bouncing isn't like a terrible result,
Yeah.
But it's also not very good either for Dylan, who really wants to be applying some pressure and getting ahead here.
It looks like Dylan passed priority. I think Chris did the same. And that did shrink 1 mana from Chris. All right, and there is land 2. And see if there is a command, anything like that on Chris's end step.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. You got 5 spare cards there, Dylan?
So that's really cool, using the combat damage on top of the Dismember.
Yes.
Not doing any combat. Let's let the damage happen. Let's let the damage already stack onto the Frog, and now Dismember more than enough to kill it.
Yeah, and you got a couple of cards to get discarded, plus you only lost a Scion in that exchange. Got to think that was a pretty big exchange for Chris.
Yeah, in the game of chicken, Chris is the winner.
Yep.
Crystallis and Chris.
Yes, yes. All right, here comes the 3/4 coming in.
This is interesting.
And a Stirrings floating a mana.
I thought we were tapping mana in combat. I was like, ooh, what's going on here?
Yeah, spicy. All right, we have the Stirrings. I saw a Myco spawn no matter what. That looks pretty strong.
Yeah, almost any Eldrazi is good here.
Yeah, kind of strange to not do this main phase 1, right?
Yeah, if you're planning on sacrificing the Scion, which you don't really know yet. Same idea we were saying earlier, where you want to make your plays with the most information possible. So if you're going to look at cards, do it first.
Yeah, that is fair. But at the same time, Chris is trying to prevent some of the information from Dylan knowing here. And, okay, a spawn was sacrificed. And, you can miss that Writhing Chrysalis trigger, right?
Yeah, it could still be on the stack because the land search is also a trigger, so Myco Spawn's on the stack, and the crystal will still be on the stack also. But the window is closing rapidly here to put that counter on.
And I think that is Chris looking over, but like, I should have a counter here too. Did I miss it? And they're kind of explaining exactly what you are. Like, the triggers should still be on the stack, and you get to order them however you want, right? With the Myco Spawn, you can put the Chrysalis behind all the triggers.
Correct. So until we're clearly at a point where we are in the main phase with an empty stack, it could still be there.
So we'll see. Of course, you have the judges. You know, they're your friends. They can let you know how things work. But you can also miss anything in competitive IRL.
That is true. That is true. It is not your opponent's responsibility to chime in and say, hey, you missed that. And it looks like, yeah, I guess we're going to battle on. Oh, we're counting types here.
Yeah, counting types. But, yeah, it does look like that counter is not being added to the Chrysalis. Kind of surprising.
Yeah, it's hard, like, at that spot in the game, you know, if it's still on the stack, you know, if it was an enters the battlefield trigger on the Myco Spawn, it's too late.
Yeah.
Because it's already in play. But because they're all happening on the stack, the spell itself, the Eldrazi trigger, and then the Chrysalis trigger, I don't know, but.
Good thing it's not our job to figure it out, huh?
Yep.
And it looks like while they're figuring that out, Dylan is going to check the types. We can do a count along. Well, we got Eldrazi creature, sorcery instant, land artifact, 6 for sure. No Karn. Nothing like that to be able to boost it any further, I would imagine. Separate it off there for us. That helps a lot.
I see Bajuka Bog was the get to with the Myco Spawn.
Yeah.
You know? So hitting that graveyard.
There was an eye in there, so that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, didn't see that.
Yep, get that eye out of there.
Didn't see the eye.
Open your eye, man.
I know.
Open your one eye.
Open both of them.
Yeah. That was, of course, discarded to the frog. And, man, I just want to go back to that exchange. You know, Dylan kind of had that free discard with discarding the Oculus. You know, that was kind of free.
Right.
But it wasn't really free now that Bajuka Bog happened and had to discard another card. And then the Dismember, you know, I mean, that Dismember was some pretty nice value.
Yeah, very well played. Yeah. Very, very patient. You know, let's let this exchange happen. It's the kind of thing where, like, this thing is happening. It isn't that bad for me yet. So I'm not gonna do anything yet. This is fine. I'm okay with this. It's not great, but it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, and then Dismember comes in, mops things up, which is great. And you know, the attack was a little bold. It was bold. A little frisky.
Yeah. And, you know, maybe I kind of think what happened there, and, of course, we're just coming back to the booth while they get this judge call figured out. Then we'll jump right back down. You're not going to miss any of the game. But I think what it really was Dylan had the command figured out with the consign.
Right.
That would be the information that I'm trying to gather if, you know, I'm unpacking that turn. If I was the Eldrazi player, I'd be like, well, they probably had a consign to beat a command, but the Dismember didn't have an answer for that. Probably sided out a lot of actual counter spells and stuff like that because, you know, the cast triggers on all these Eldrazi's. So I would assume my opponent has a consign there.
Yeah, very, very reasonable for sure.
Yeah.
And then Dismember's a great juke in that spot because obviously it's the kind of card that doesn't play around that. Kind of having these one or two of them sideboard's a big deal.
Yeah.
You can be getting spots like that where the main card that you play around is not present.
All right. An extra counter on Rising Chrysalis. We got there.
All right.
Chris is able to be a good old 4-5, and we have a Ketramos here landed in play here from Dylan. That's going to be nice against basically all the mid-range style things, but if there's any unfair thing, let's say, you know, a 13-mana spaghetti monster, that could be brutal.
Yeah, we're now hitting the midpoint of the mid game here, and then Chris is ready to move into the late game. You know, got a few extra lands in play. Getting that bog was a cost. You know, not getting an Eldrazi Temple for the double land is it's tough. That's across the land you usually want to get. You can keep your mana going here and getting up into those really stratospheric numbers.
Yep, and the math still works out that we can count up to 13 with Delirium. So if it was there, we'd cast it. So you got to think Chris is in a lot of trouble, and now Dylan gets to attack, gain some life, and have mana left over. I mean, just like we were saying the entire match, like, this matchup's really good for the Esper Oculus deck.
Yeah, Chris has some work to do here for sure.
Yeah.
Now, the block here isn't too bad. You know, it has menace.
Yeah.
You can double block it.
Yeah.
You're kind of jump block with a Myco Spawn. Chris is at 6. You
Yeah.
know, Dismember and Friends add up reasonably quickly.
They really do. So an attack from Ketramos, a pass. We're not getting any draw going from Ketramos, from the powerful god. But we are still, able to get that life going. And it really comes down to, can we find an Emrakul, and is there a consign? Like, if there's a consign, like, I don't know if there's much that Chris can really do.
Yeah. Fetching out of 5. So still will have one more turn in theory. Oh, okay.
There we go. It's Emrakul.
I'm glad there are big letters on that card telling me it's an Emrakul.
Yes. Otherwise, what is that, a rock poster? Or
it's something.
A music festival lineup, maybe? Who knows?
It's a big question mark. Consign or not? And the answer is yes, consign.
Exactly. It is countered. No Emrakul shenanigans. Replicate it 15 times. Why not?
Now the question is...
Ooh, surveil the eye.
Oh, we hit an eye too?
We hit an eye.
Wow.
Okay. Ketramos gets in there. Puts Chris down to 1. One more turn for Chris to find something.
Now, is there another Emrakul?
Yeah, and is there another consign? One final draw step. We're going to slam it. No!
Talisman Impulse.
Dylan Klett advances to 6-0 and is one of our first players into day number 2, no matter what, with the 6-0 record. But, of course, you got 3 rounds left. You want to make sure and end your day strong and try to pick up maybe 3 more wins. Why not?